Welcome to Random and Memorable, a podcast from 1Password. I'm Matt Davey, 1Password's Chief Experience Officer.
I'm Sara, one of the founders at 1Password.
I'm Roo, Head of Password Manager Development.
I'm Anna, the producer behind the show.
And we're the hosts behind Random and Memorable. Together, we offer up bi-weekly security advice, interview special guests from the cybersecurity community, and round up the latest security news in Watchtower Weekly. Plus, we may play a silly security game or two. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Do we feel ready?
Okay, I have the show notes open and everything.
Shout outs.
So, at the same time, I was booking some mole appointments to have something looked at. And I can't remember what else it was. I think it was like a booking from a restaurant or something like that. And I accidentally sent mole pictures to the wrong to the wrong thing. I very rarely do anything like this, right? Like, I'm always the person who's on mute. Like, for Zoom calls, I'm always the person that, like, you know, has the right permissions set on the document and all this kind of stuff. But for some reason, I was off kilter that day, and I did end up sending a lot of zoomed-in pictures of my face to a random person who was like, I don't think you meant to send those. So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
The mole's absolutely fine, by the way.
Oh, is it really?
It is.
I'm so glad you're getting it looked at, because it's been looking at me for weeks.
Yes, thanks.
It's really something.
The really alarming thing was when half of it fell off.
Oh, no.
And I had to send them another picture that was like, hey, this bit fell off. Is that okay? And they were like, I think you should come in. So I went in today.
God, that's so gross. We should talk about something else.
Right. It is both random and memorable, though.
It's true. Yeah.
All the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Oh, very wrong reasons.
I've just seen it's World Password Day. Look at that.
It is World Password Day.
It is. Congratulations, world. You have a password day.
So welcome to our World Password Day special. Later on in the show, we'll be answering any and all of your questions about passwords, passphrases, passkeys, 2FA, and things of that nature. But before all that, shall we get into some Watchtower Weekly?
I suppose we could. I suppose so.
I think we should.
Go ahead.
Okay. As you probably know by now, we like to keep you up to date on the security news at 1Password, so Watchtower Weekly is where we like to bring some of those stories to the show and share our thoughts and feelings on them. The first up is this. We have an article from the Register, which simply reads, RIP Google Privacy Sandbox. So, after 6 years of work, Google's Privacy Sandbox, technology for delivering ads while protecting privacy, looks like dust in the wind. Google has surrendered to pressure from watchdogs and rivals who preferred the status quo, which is third-party cookies and all of the privacy problems that come with them. While a loss for user privacy, the move could lower the temperature on Google's troubles, as regulators feared the online ads giant would also use the tool to boost its own already dominant advertising services. If you didn't know, in recent years, Google has aimed to get rid of third-party cookies in Chrome, which by virtue of its dominance would break cookies for the entire ad industry. Now, it seems like that's no longer the plan, and online advertising will remain the same as it ever was. As we know, websites rely on cookies for various legitimate and necessary functions, such as authentication and storing preferences. But they also allow third-party firms to place cookies for user tracking, analytics, attribution, and other functions. Third-party cookies allow people's online activities to be tracked across websites, often in ways that lets them be kind of personally identifiable. So Google began efforts to build its privacy sandbox in 2019 in an effort to get ahead of its rising tide of privacy regulation as technical defenses began appearing in rival browsers that basically blocked third-party cookies by default. The project consisted of a set of APIs, initially for the web but later expanded to Android, and this was pitched to advertisers and publishers as a way to meet privacy regulations without depriving advertisers of targeting and analytics tools. The ad rethink ran into opposition from ad tech rivals who argued the technology gave Google an edge in the buying and selling of adverts. And in July 2024, The VP of Privacy Sandbox conceded partial defeat by promising to let Chrome users choose whether to play in the Privacy Sandbox or accept third-party cookies. Google planned to offer an opt-in screen which Chrome users could choose to allow third-party cookies if they wished. But it seems that now it won't even do that. Citing the adoption of unspecified privacy-enhancing technologies, supposed opportunities to improve privacy with AI, and a shifting regulatory landscape, Google walked back last year's compromise. The VP of the Privacy Sandbox now said, taking all of these factors into consideration, we've made the decision to maintain our current approach to offering users third-party cookie choice in Chrome and will not be rolling out a new standalone prompt for third-party cookies. Users can continue to choose the best option for them in Chrome's privacy and security settings. Some Privacy Sandbox technologies will continue to be developed and deployed, specifically IP protection, a proxy-based scheme for keeping users' IP addresses away from third parties while in incognito mode. But the future of the Privacy Sandbox APIs are uncertain. So the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, spoke on the matter saying, Google continues to backtrack on its privacy promises, leaving billions of Chrome users vulnerable to online surveillance. Even if implemented, a user choice prompt would have fallen short of the default privacy protections offered by other leading browsers. Safari and Firefox have blocked third-party cookies by default since 2020, recognizing the widespread and well-documented privacy harms that they cause. By refusing to implement the bare minimum protections once they promised, Google is making clear that they have user privacy come second to their surveillance-based business model. To protect themselves from third-party cookies, users should likely switch to browsers like Firefox and installing a tracking blocker extension like Privacy Badger. Yes, I did say that correctly. That extension is called Privacy Badger. What do we think?
So here's the thing. This is unfortunate. It's also not at all surprising because I think that this is a very natural consequence of trying to advance privacy at a company that does not have privacy in its DNA, and in fact, very much is incentivized not to have privacy in its DNA. So, I mean, this sucks, but I'm not surprised.
There was also kind of a monopoly aspect to this, right? Because they were removing third-party cookies, but it wasn't like they were just like binning them. They wanted to do it in their specific way that would essentially mean if you wanted cross-site tracking and that kind of thing, you would have to go to them for it. So they would have got like stuck in regulatory hell, I reckon.
Yeah, quite possibly.
I think more and more browsers are going to start kind of controlling adverts, and you really kind of use the browser where you trust what methods it is using for its income.
I think it's hard to know sometimes as a user whether is it the browser that's feeding me this kind of stuff? Is it the actual website I'm visiting? Like, who's hosting these ads? Who's getting the revenue from these things? Who's harvesting all of my information? And, really the answer is all of them. I think more and more people are trying to be mindful of what they're using online and where they're going online, and the explosion of all of the new search options and LLMs is making it a lot easier for people to make the smarter security choices.
Yeah, I think the internet is basically a series of whack-a-mole. This will come up and get shut down. We are moving in an interesting direction all round, where I think advertising on websites, affiliates, all of that kind of stuff, the fascinating move as we navigate AI and towards kind of agent stuff where, if you want to buy something or if you want to go and do something, you can get an AI to just go and find you the best deals. And you don't endlessly click on oh, well, they said it was this price and then I clicked on it and then it wasn't that price. Or oh, I clicked on it and it had none in stock and all this kind of stuff. And if you think about the amount of clicks that you make when you do something like that, insurance is a great example. The amount of comparison markets and that type of stuff in the UK is huge. It's massive business. And it's all affiliate linked, and it's all every review that you read or any deal that you get, it's all through this affiliate network. And I feel like AI is just going to navigate its way, sailing straight through that, ignoring all of the adverts, all of the affiliates. You end up dropping cookies on ghost machines that delete themselves after a while just so this AI can work through. And then it's just going to surface you the links. So I think really, like, maybe this is a little bit of Google investing in a thing that they see going away. I mean, you can already see that in their search, right? Like, they are investing heavily in AI and trying to get you to, like, say whether things are useful or not. And at the moment, I think Google search is actually a lot less useful in the last year than it was in the prior, like, decade. Because of all of this kind of, like, they're surfacing the right answer.
Sponsored link, sponsored link, sponsored link.
Yeah, but the AI summaries are even worse at the moment. And so I think, like, when this stuff starts to be better, it's going to be less about sponsored links and more about, like, behind the scenes, is your AI doing a deal with someone else to, you know, retrieve their thing rather than someone else's? Oh, I hope we don't get to that, but I can see it coming.
Yep.
So on that note, since we're going to be weaving our questions in throughout the day, what do you both recommend as good alternatives for when you're doing your browsing? Like, where do you guys hang out on the browser webs?
So I use Chrome because lots of stuff breaks when I'm not in Chrome, but I use something that Roostum actually linked me called NextDNS because I was running this, like, Raspberry Pi with a DNS server on it and, like, sniffing URLs when I thought, like, they were doing something weird and, like, blocking them. And again, the internet is a whack-a-mole. I whacked some moles, but there were plenty of moles around. NextDNS, I just created a complete block list of all the places that I know adverts come from. And my internet experience is so much better. Browsing newspapers and that type of thing, like, it's so much better just to wipe the adverts all away from them. I love it. And it's also, like, something that you can install on every device that you have or on the router. So regardless of what browser you use, it's just better.
So I use Safari. I always have. I don't experience any breakages with it, which I find fascinating to hear that you do, Matt. I really have not. But as a user myself, like, I use Safari. I use DuckDuckGo for my search engine, which I've tried to, like, put that on Carrie's phone and Sophia's phone to set in their things. And they have very quickly come back to me and been like, get me back to Google, which I also don't experience. So it's possible that I'm just, like, used to the things and I don't know what I'm missing. But that's what I do for sort of, like, privacy preservation on the internet. Oh, and then also I do have a DNS set up for, I think, just my devices. I don't believe I put it on the router or router. It's one of those basically, like, ad blocking DNSs, Matt.
Yeah, I find them brilliant. I really like it. It doesn't kind of do weird things to the page, but yeah, it's nice. Okay, this next one, coaching AI agents. Why your next security hire might be an algorithm. Interesting use of the word algorithm. I'm not sure whether it is an algorithm, is it? Okay, well, that's the headline. It's no secret that security teams are, you know, often drowning in alerts. I think they get a few from 1Password as well. The sheer volume of threats, suspicious activity, and false positives make it nearly impossible for analysts to investigate everything effectively. I don't know why today, but I am waving my hands around just to a maddening degree for myself. Thank goodness we're not on camera today, because I don't know what is going on.
You are trying to fan yourself. You're trying to fan yourself. Anything to make it cooler in the room that you're in.
Just any gesticulation to move some air around, apparently I'm doing. But with the rise of agentic AI, these challenges are becoming easier. These AI agents are now capable of completing hundreds of tasks simultaneously without tiring. I will add a caveat there. We don't know how tired they are. No one seems to ask them.
No one's asked. I can relate to those AI agents. No one asks me how I'm doing. No one asks me. They just say, can you do this too?
And so no one asks me either.
I'm going to go ask Gemini if they ever get tired. You guys keep going.
Nice.
Oh, dear. All right. Organizations are increasingly turning to agentic AI to handle repetitive security tasks, such as alert triage, allowing human analysts to focus on the most critical threats. But while agentic AI might be fast, it isn't infallible. It doesn't inherently understand an organization's unique risk landscape or security priorities. And we'll say, yet. Like any new hire, an AI agent needs guidance to be effective. It must be adapted, monitored, and refined to align with the security policies and operational workflows. The shift in security operations isn't about replacing human analysts, but about augmenting them. An AI agent functions as an extra set of hands, sifting through data and identifying potential threats. However, left unchecked, AI can often reinforce incorrect assumptions, misinterpret data, or generate misleading conclusions. AI agents for cybersecurity aren't like the traditional rule-based systems of the past. Unlike conventional automation, which follows a fixed set of instructions, agentic AI is dynamic. It learns, adapts, and refines its approach over time. Instead of blindly executing predefined rules, it makes decisions based on logical reasoning, analyzing patterns across vast datasets to detect anomalies that might signal a threat. But this flexibility is also a double-edged sword. Without clear direction, AI can misinterpret signals, overlook critical context, or reinforce incorrect assumptions. I find AI makes decisions so quickly that, I wonder if slowing it down a bit and making it think more would make us feel more comfortable. Because sometimes when I'm doing something on ChatGPT and it's just it spits it out immediately, I get it to do it twice just to can you double check this? I'm not satisfied that it spent enough time thinking about it. But I think it's just doing that for me.
No, I think that there's something to be said about that. But I think the other part of when you ask someone something, you've worked with the folks where you ask someone and they give you the answer right away and you're like, it didn't tell me what I needed because I didn't ask the question fully. You didn't understand the intent of my question. I feel like if it was more of a relational piece as well, where it's okay, I think, that reflective listening, I think you're asking me this because I think you want to understand the impacts of A, B, and C. Is that correct? Because I want to make sure I'm getting you the A, B, and C so before I go get an answer, as opposed to coming back and telling you X, Y, Z. I think that's the, what's the intent behind your question? And then sometimes, because you don't have the situational awareness, you're not in an office with someone, you're not working on a project, all of that context isn't there because you're just asking a one-off instance. It would be like asking the person at the Tim Hortons drive-thru, hey, what's the answer to this? And if they could give you an answer, but they don't have the context of the conversation that's gone on in the car that they've missed out on. So I think it's just reminding yourself that the robot needs to be in the car with you.
Yeah, very, very, very true. So in many ways, an AI agent kind of functions like a very smart junior security analyst. I often say, in terms of security, especially as we start to give kind of AI agents credential access or OAuth permissions and that type of stuff, really that they are, sentient 5-year-olds with 1 year's worth of training. That's what it feels like to me, is someone who has a decent knowledge of something, but is still not great at, making complex decisions, rather than instant ones based on the training and instant information. But this document describes them as a newly hired human analyst who doesn't understand the business context on day one. AI, lacks inherent awareness of an organization's risk appetite, critical assets, or internal workflows out of the box. It may start flagging insignificant anomalies while missing out genuine dangerous threats if not given the right context. And like junior staff, agentic AI needs onboarding, mentorship, and periodic feedback to ensure that its decisions align with real-world priorities. I'm sure you both find this as well. I think the feedback cycle with AI is actually really interesting. One of the questions that I like to ask ChatGPT is, based on all of the things that I have asked you to do and all of the context that you have given, what's one thing that I'm missing? What's some feedback that you can give me that I am missing about stuff? And it was a fascinating answer. Useful in some cases. So there you go. That's a prompt to try.
Yes, that is one thing. I have tried that before. I don't have that as a typical thing. One of the things that I do regularly when I'm using an LLM is I will ask it first to act like a prompt engineer and help me build a prompt to accomplish a task, and then to ask me questions that it needs to in order to make that prompt better. So I'm using it to create the thing that I will then input into it to get content back out, and I have found that to be fascinatingly efficient and like effective for getting information out.
It's what many people describe as the tipping point in AI. I don't think we've reached yet, but when at the moment AI research is done a lot by humans and it's, augmented and stuff, but when AI can start researching itself, that's kind of what you're describing. Like it's detailing what it needs for the prompt and like, working out all of the links between stuff. It's kind of like researching itself.
Yeah.
I think the real difference is going to be just in how it hits the open market, because I think there's different AI pieces for different people. Like I think a lot of folks are looking at it now like, Google on steroids. Like it's just a thing, and I can just ask it to do stuff and it just does it unchecked. And I think the real challenge for those of us in the tech industry and for those of us that are trying to use tools to create things is to really be clear about the process that goes behind things, where it's, I'm trying to do a thing. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm going to use this tool to help me put together the research, and using it like a tool as opposed to using it as someone to say, I need a PowerPoint presentation on this. Can you go whip it together for me? Like it's not an administrative assistant. It's not a quick doer. It's not a taskmaster. If you're using it as a companion to push your work and thread your analysis and put it all together, like the discussion piece around like, what am I missing? And I think what you were saying, Matt, about you have to make sure you're doing the prompts. It's important that people understand that. If they think that AI is just going to go do a thing and flag them to say, oh yeah, but remember you might not have included this, that, or the other thing. That's not what it's going to do. It's just a robot that's going to do what you ask it to do, no more, no less. So you have to be really creative with how you go about asking questions and then taking that analysis and asking further. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And, really that's what this article is getting at, is that security teams really must not treat AI as a fire and forget tool, but as developing an analyst, one that becomes more effective over time. And without that guidance, AI without business context is just another unpredictable variable in an already complex security landscape. With that guidance, AI will grow and become, a teammate that never forgets details and consistently applies kind of organizational policies and practices and preferences. I think it could even help with like onboarding new teammates as they come in. But, historical security incidents, environmental details, incident response playbooks, all of this stuff can kind of serve as training material as well, helping it kind of recognize threats within an organization's unique security landscape. I've already kind of fed some phishing emails into AI, while also actually playing on a non-company machine with some of the phishing AI just to understand it better. And that stuff is fascinating, where you can just kind of type in a domain and it will go and find out what all the emails look like and like spoof up a site and all this kind of stuff. The phishing as a service things are getting wildly good, very, very unnerving. But yeah, anyway, that's an aside. When AI is kind of treated as a learning system rather than just an infallible oracle, it also becomes kind of more than a tool. It can become a partner in cybersecurity that teams invest in adapting their AI, and hopefully that means that we reduce alert fatigue over time and build kind of a security operation that continually evolves to meet new threats.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the World Password Day special bit.
Well, I think we can touch on this one really quickly, this article here, because it was kind of a neat article that just, I think it's going to highlight what we're going to talk about next with World Password Day, because Gen Z know the risks and are still reusing their passwords. When we say the words like Gen Z, I'm like, who are those people? How old are they? So, of course, I double-checked that. And these people are between the ages of 13 and 28.
28? What?
Yep, you were born in 1997 to 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you are listening to this show and you are reusing passwords, this is a bad thing to do. 72% of this survey, people said they reuse word passwords. So, in honor of World Password Day, we would like to encourage all of y'all out there who are reusing passwords to please stop. We know that password fatigue is real, but, we want you to be people that are using the internet properly. Friend of the show, Eric Huffman, he described this generation as almost internet native, where you kind of began your lives on the internet and everything was there. So y'all started out with some bad habits. So we need to stop that. So please don't do that.
One of the interesting pieces of this is that younger generations are more likely to compensate for bad password habits by using multi-factor authentication. So over 80% of Gen Z and millennials report that they are at least somewhat likely to enable MFA even when it isn't required, compared to just 51% of boomers. Those percentages seem ridiculously high compared to the businesses that I've talked to where, talking to the UX folks on those companies, they avoid MFA as much as they can because they know as soon as they enforce it, they lose out on people signing up to their product. And they also have to deal with account recovery and loads of stuff like that. So I think that percentage is very high.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear who actually did this survey because some of the numbers surprised me. But regardless, don't reuse your passwords. So let's talk about World Password Day, since this really is our World Password Day special. And we can focus on how you can be safer on the internet. So, Roo, take it away.
Yeah, there is no guest this week. Instead, we are going to spend the entire time answering questions that have come in from the community. World Password Day is May 1st, and to mark the occasion, we asked our listeners and the 1Password community if they had any password-related questions for us. We are stoked that so many of you submitted questions about passwords, passkeys, and 2FA, and passphrases, and all sorts of stuff like that. So let's get into them.
So the first question here is, why are password spreadsheets considered a security risk? Did we have to answer this one?
Yes.
Is this still a thing?
It is. Is it still a thing that people don't know what's up, or is it still a thing?
But I mean both, really.
People are still using them, and they clearly don't understand why that's not a good idea.
I feel like it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. I feel like it's easy, and that's why people do it.
Yes.
And they understand mostly that it's a security risk.
I don't think so.
But not really perhaps the details of why. But essentially, giving anybody access to plain text versions of all of your passwords and not kind of, moving them into separate things and kind of doing it on a platform that is meant for it and encrypted, that's the element there.
So, yeah, I'll put this very, very plainly. If you are storing your passwords in a spreadsheet in the cloud, you are effectively putting plain text passwords on someone else's computer. And if you are comfortable having your private information being stored on someone else's computer, by all means, please continue. But also, don't do that. That's not a good idea. You are setting yourself up for some sort of breach.
Yeah, and it's also it's really difficult to maintain a bit of sharing or any control over that as well. So if you're doing it in a business, that's kind of even worse, where you have staff turnover and all that kind of thing. It's very difficult to manage.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, what's the next question, Roo?
The next question is, I use strong passwords.
Good for you.
Any tips for getting my family members to use a password manager and do the same?
Oh, this one's really difficult. I think, one, you need to just go in and change them all, right? And you need to make that the point in which someone moves. Because if you put all their current passwords in there, it's not going to work. Also, if you are around and you've put their current passwords in, they've been made up of dog names and number plates and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They will ask you. This is the thing I find. My mum texts me and goes, "What's the password to this?" I find the gibberish ones are really, really hard to kind of have confidence to move people over. I feel like you have to be, kind of technology native almost in order to really trust that. But just moving on and having them as pronounceable but random and different for each service, I find if you just turn on Touch ID, you put them in there and they treat it like a notepad. You don't worry about the extension until later on. You don't worry about the auto-filling. Just worry about kind of getting a different one for each service. I think that's the starting point for me.
I have someone who I know very well and is very close to me who insists that they are able to come up with passwords using their own method that is just as secure as 1Password. These are basically word list passwords. Mm-hmm. This person just invents a word list password. And it's like, see, look at that. 4 words that have nothing to do with each other.
I think if they are creating it in a predictable way each time, that's probably the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if someone breaches 1 service, 2 services, 3 services, your information's out there and they can essentially like link the 3 things together.
Yeah.
It's always the surefire way of making a password, which is what someone has told me, was because they had to rotate it all the time. They literally just had football players. And so they would rotate through the positions. And then by the time that they had rotated through all of the football players that there were, of course, the football team had changed or they'd bought new players or whatever, and they would go through it again. But if 2 services or 3 services were breached that they used, how many people on a football team? Like 11? 13? 24? Anyway, you have that many number of guesses against that person's password if a service is breached and you see that they've used that particular team. You know, thinking like that and thinking, okay, if this was public, would it give away how I create passwords? That's the thing that kind of gives generation the edge.
Yeah.
Okay. This next one is, when do you think passkey support will become fully the norm in apps and websites? Oh, I got 2 thoughts on this. It's going to be either there's going to be something that means that there is more revenue coming from people who use passkeys, and I think that will speed it up a lot. So when you go to checkout, you can just generate one on the fly, and you don't have to like create an account in order to buy something. That might help revenue and that type of thing. Because I think really that is what drives a lot of the internet, is people buying things. So the second way that I think this is possibly going to go is incredibly slowly. Slow burn. The website where you order your kebab on a Friday night doesn't use a passkey, but eventually it probably will. And this is where I see these things like slow burn changing over. I think we're probably in camp 2.
Oh, okay. So I know it's best practice to use an app like 1Password to store 2FA codes, but many services insist on SMS as a fallback 2FA option. Doesn't this defeat the point of using app-based 2FA? It doesn't defeat the purpose of using app-based 2FA. It's just different 2FA. It is less secure 2FA. You know, SIM jacking and things like this are pretty easy for people to pull off. And so if someone wants to target you and get your number, they can also get your SMS texted 2FA codes pretty easily. But it doesn't defeat the point of it. It's one of those things where certain services support app-based 2FA codes and others do not. And whenever you have the option to not use a text-based one, that's what you should go with.
Okay, let's do this one. Back in 2003, the NIST guidelines recommend changing your password every 90 days. This is now proven to be more harmful than helpful. Why should users trust the current NIST guidelines, and why are the current NIST guidelines so inconsistently and poorly implemented? I think I'm going to answer this from my own perspective, which is it's all about user experience. The difficult thing is that changing your password every 90 days, people forget them and reset them and come up with schemes to move around stuff. And this is all kind of like behavioral science stuff. So I do think like change is probably the reason why they are implemented inconsistently and poorly in areas. And really, it will be because, you know, security teams are just trying to keep up. And, like, if something works for the time that it is there, if it works every 90 days and you don't know that the other thing works, it's just what works. And so the inconsistency is probably, like, just haven't quite adapted yet. And then I'd say the you know, why has this been proven to be more harmful than helpful and that type of thing is literally just because people will find a way around it. And when that becomes the normal and the trodden path, NIST need to change their guidelines.
I think that in terms of like inconsistency and stuff like that, we're all learning how to do better every single day. And this is advice that was old for a while. And the problem is that with things like this, once they're seeded out into the world once from an authority like NIST, it becomes common guidance that people go and implement. And that gets ensconced throughout the industry. And so it is slow to change because people aren't sitting around waiting to upgrade to the latest NIST guidelines. It's just like, well, I did the thing that NIST said back in 2003, and I'm going to set that, forget that, and move on. So I think that's probably why you're seeing some inconsistency and why it feels like some of these things are just poorly implemented.
Okay, this next one. Is there any update on when I will be able to move my passkeys between different password managers? I think there was work on this, but like standards work is really difficult because there's multiple platforms, multiple vendors, all of this kind of stuff involved. So like this stuff moves really slowly. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something this year, but also I'm thinking probably at least next year.
When you are within one ecosystem, like 1Password, your passkeys will sync across all of your devices, which is really good. But the original intent behind passkeys was that they were device specific. Mm-hmm. So your Mac would have a different passkey for a service than your iPhone. And so this concept of like multiple passkeys, I believe that the approach to think about instead is not, do I move my passkeys between password managers, but rather, can I register an additional passkey for this service for this device? Or if you're migrating from Apple Passwords into 1Password, can you just register a new passkey for 1Password and use that going forward? We're still at the very beginning of the passkeys rollout. So, I think that a lot of this stuff is set to change as we figure out the right way to do it.
I think the real answer to that is both. It's both. Yes, there will be a scheme or a method of moving passkeys between things, but also you can generate multiple when you kind of move platforms and move devices.
When will 1Password introduce or integrate email aliases? Email aliases, for folks who don't know, is where you can give a service an email address that is not actually your email address. You can give it a made-up email address that forwards to your regular inbox, but it protects your email identity out in the world. And we do, of course, have an integration with Fastmail. I think we had a whole episode where we talked about the Fastmail integration. So, you can sign up. If you use Fastmail as a service, 1Password will work with that, and you'll be able to generate email aliases right in 1Password using your Fastmail account. So that is a solution that exists today.
Lovely.
Is it possible to use 1Password for contact management, or is this something that you've thought about? Matt, have you been witness to people using 1Password as contact management?
I have, and we have thought about some use cases where this might be something. I think people are using 1Password for many things that it was not like originally intended to, but we've kind of adapted it for that. And it's the reason why they're called kind of identities rather than contacts, is you kind of use identities for both yourself and use them for other people. And we've tried to like work the profiles piece, which is in the desktop app, to be like, these identities are you, so we're going to put them to the top of the list. Because like, if you have a bunch of identities, the problem is that it's just like, it's really overwhelming. Sorting the like noise from the signal in 1Password is really half of the user experience battle. So like, some of these things, yes, you can use it for contact management. There is probably a dedicated app that will do it a lot better, but this is securely shared between your family or business. We may make enhancements in the future towards using it like this, because I think there's a lot of information that you want to store on other people that you want to keep secure. So, yes, you can. It is possible, but it's not great yet.
I will take a moment to promote friend of the show, FlexiBits crew. They have an app called CardHop. If you are looking for something beyond what the built-in contacts management does, perhaps CardHop is for you. So you should Google CardHop. It's all one word, or DuckDuckGo it, I suppose, and go check that out. It's a cool app.
If you have any more questions for us, feel free to drop them in the 1Password community site. That's 1password.community. Or send us an email at podcast@1password.com for us to answer in the thread or on an upcoming episode.
Incredible.
Okay. Well, that was a wonderful section, and we really appreciate everyone participating with that. And as always, we're always happy to answer your questions. We'll be having Agony Roo back next episode. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email us or join over at the 1Password community and pop them in. So now we are going to head over to our alternative security questions games. So let's kick it off with the jingle.
It's Alternative Security Questions, the game show that answers the questions that no one asked for.
Traditional security questions are boring, overused, and predictable. So here we get to suggest some alternative security questions with some incredibly random answers. This week, Matt and Roo will create fake answers to obscure questions. As the host, I will award pointless points to my favorite answer. As an added bonus, I can also try to detect if their answers were real or indeed fake. We've got 3 rounds with 3 answers for alternative security questions. So, if you're ready, gentlemen, start your engines. What is your go-to excuse for being late?
Oh God, what is the thing I say? I'm so sorry, that last call ran late. That's it. That is 100% it.
Oh my God, I was going to say exactly the same thing. How sad is that? Sorry, my last one ran over.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm going to go with 0 points for creativity for both of you, because I think that's how you both started this call today.
I think
and that's a true answer. So, on that deflating note, you couldn't even blame the tool. The tool didn't start, but no.
So sorry.
All right, this one will take us a little off path. So, what's the one thing that you would definitely hoard in a zombie apocalypse?
Gasoline and electricity.
Yeah, but that's boring.
No.
How do you hoard electricity?
Don't worry about it.
So, at the beginning of the pandemic, I told my wife to panic buy some things. And I didn't give any more details other than that. And she went away and she bought a lot of curry paste and coconut milk.
Amazing.
And actually, it was brilliant. Throughout the pandemic, and we were just eating wonderful, massaman curries and that type of thing. So, yeah, I'm gonna hoard coconut milk. It was great for calories, and it came in a tin. So there you go.
Okay. Matt's gonna win that one because, again, boring and predictable, Roo. You got to try harder, and I don't.
Fine.
Fine.
You know.
Fine. I don't care.
I can go to Matt's house for dinner at least. It would be something excellent. Okay, this one I'm excited for the answer from both of you. I would love to hear a real one, but we will see. What is the most bizarre compliment you've ever received?
Oh, ever received?
Yes.
Okay. I have a good answer for given. Can I answer that? Okay.
This is the awkward portion of the day where you have to talk about how good you are, and someone said something that you did was good, or maybe it wasn't good.
I mostly ignore people complimenting me. I think it's a cultural thing.
Can confirm.
Yes.
Nice.
Thanks, Roo.
Oh my God. I don't know, okay, I got told once that I look like Brendan Fraser. That's at one point in my life, you were like, you look a lot like Brendan Fraser, which I took as a compliment, but also I find it kind of strange.
Have you seen Brendan Fraser lately?
He's a national treasure. You shut your dirty mouth, okay?
I saw him next to the Toronto office. He was just sitting having breakfast, and I said, "Hey, Brendan." He was like, "What's up?" That was really cool.
Oh.
Aw. That's wholesome. What a great way to end this bit of the show. What you still have to answer, though, Matt.
Okay, so I complimented someone on their spreadsheet as it being emotionally fulfilling.
Was it PJ?
Yeah, it was.
Now I'm going to pay him that same compliment. I'm going to find a way to pay him that exact same compliment.
Yeah, it was an emotionally fulfilling spreadsheet. It was a very good spreadsheet.
I've created emotionally fulfilling spreadsheets. I have done that. I understand the emotions that can go through one's mind. But you have failed the assignment, Matt, because it was not a compliment you had given. It's one that you've received. So no points to you.
I wish I received
no points
it,
to you.
but no one compliments me, I'm afraid.
No points to you. I gave 2 great answers.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. But, but I will declare you the winner of this game.
Hey, we'll take it. Great.
When we play this game with Sara, no one gets any points. It's very it's very stingy on the imaginary points.
You know what? My imagination does not give lightly. I need to have some intake here. Come on, guys. Give me something to work with.
I love it.
My other meeting ran late. Most uncreative ever.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Most realistic, though.
I know.
Guess what? You're going to be giving that excuse in just a minute.
I know. Yeah. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you could subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also leave us a rating or review. It's one of the best ways to support Random But Memorable, and we always love reading your feedback. We're also a community-led podcast, so if you have any questions for us, topics, requests, or even guests you want to hear from, please send us an email at podcast@onepassword.com. We read all your comments and look forward to hearing from you. We hope you join us in the next episode for plenty more random moments in the world of cybersecurity.